Together with Puppet Labs, ThoughtWorks, and IT Revolution Press, you recently released the 2014 State of DevOps Report. What was the goal of that survey?
So this is our second year doing this study, and we've benchmarked over 14,000 organizations, and our goal is really to understand two things. One is, what does high-performing DevOps look like, and what are the cultural and engineering practices that enable it? And so the goal is really to figure out how do other organizations replicate the good to great transformations that we see in the high performers.
And were there significant finding differences between the 2013 and 2014 reports?
One was very much the same, and then one was very, very different. So what was the same is that we found that high performers are massively outperforming their non-high performing peers. They're more agile, meaning that they're doing 30 times more frequent code deployments than their peers, and they can do it 8,000 times faster. In other words, how long does it take them to go from code committed by development to actually running in production? They can do it in minutes or hours, whereas lower performers take weeks, months, or quarters. When they do a production change, they're twice as likely to be successful, and their mean time to recover is 12 times faster. So that was very much the same in year one versus year two. What was different, and was the biggest surprise, was that not only was high performance good for IT organizations, in other words for dev and ops, but was also great for the organization as well. We found that these high performers were 2.5 times more likely to exceed profitability, market share, and productivity goals. And so it's great for dev ops as well as the organization. And when we even look at the stock market performance as measured by market cap growth over 3 years, the high performers had 50% higher market cap growth than the lower performers. So I think this really shows that DevOps really does help the organization win in the marketplace.
And looking just at the 2014 results, what stood out? Were there any surprises, significant findings that you would highlight?
Yeah, so what were the top predictors of performance? One was, are all production artifacts in version control? And in fact, that was a higher predictor than, are you version controlling the code? Is there an automated testing process? Are there continuous integration and deployment processes in place? Is there proactive monitoring of the production environment? All of those are very effective predictors of performance and organizational performance. But maybe the biggest surprise was not an engineering practice at all. It was, is the organization a low-trust command and control organization, or is it a high-trust, collaborative organization? And that was actually the third largest predictor of performance. So culture does matter. Now we even know what culture looks like. So that was so exciting for us to see.
So based on your findings, what kind of advice would you offer to IT managers?
It's the advice that we would give is that DevOps is not just for the unicorns. It's not just for the Googles and Etsy's and Twitters. It is for every organization. We found that high performers exist, and DevOps organizations are thriving in large enterprises, as defined by 10,000 or more employees. That we now know what the practices that enable high performance are, as defined by version control, continuous integration and deployment, automated testing, proactive monitoring, and that management must create high trust environments as opposed to low trust command and control things that look like approval processing and so forth. So I think we now have a better idea of, for organizations that want to become high performing, how do we get there? And I think that's the whole purpose of why we do research like this.
Yeah. And so for my last question, based on those findings and given what you were just saying, would you recommend establishing a specific DevOps department?
Right. Should organizations establish a DevOps team? So Jez Humble, he wrote a controversial blog post saying that we shouldn't have DevOps teams, and yet we found that people who call themselves as part of a DevOps team actually outperform those who did not. So, I think as long as there are shared goals and they're actually implementing those practices, my interpretation of the findings is that it doesn't matter what we call them. It's actually what we do that matters, not what we call ourselves. So that was a neat surprise.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much.